It's the 10th of February, Rabbi Furst, Mishna Berura.
Earlier time. Okay, yeah, good morning again. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, Yeshiva Sama Navshi. This is our second shir in the Mishna Berura, Hilchos Purim, Siman Tov Reish Pei Chet, the end of Sif Aleph. The Mishna Berura is starting with Sif Daled, Lafuki Shenoide. Right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mir, if you like.
Okay, so it says, Aval mistama amrinan sheyashav al dat lahakifa achar kach. Okay, but generally, mistama?
Yeah, Mistam is in general. Or the assumption that we can make is.
Okay, we say that those who lived with the knowledge that the town was surrounded afterwards.
Right. Nistama, meaning in general, I'm reading that will say, Shiyashiv al das nakifu akakak. In general, it was settled with the intention to wall it afterwards.
Oh, to put the wall up afterwards. Okay. Shechein derech rov hamidinot hamukafim choma. That this is the way that most of the Medinot states, territories, I guess, that they were surrounded by a wall.
Right.
Okay. The afilu im ein makifin ota mitchila. That even if they weren't surrounded initially, I'll call panim miyashvin ota al da'at lahakifa achar kach. Nonetheless, they would live there with the knowledge that it would be walled afterwards.
Right. Because I would just imagine, because it's not, you would probably have to have people there to build the wall. So until you had a certain critical mass of population there that would be able to be able to be engaged in the construction and also in the finances for it. So you'd have to have people living there. And when you reach that critical mass of people that could finance them and provide the labor for the building of the wall, which is, I'm sure, no easy job, then the wall would be put up. Those walls, those walls that they lived in those were, fortifications. They were solid walls. Maybe Lou, remember when we were in Rome, we saw the walls of Rome, but some of the remnants of the walls of Rome. You remember we were driving through at that point.
Oh, yeah.
When they put up walls, they really put up walls. They weren't
Big deal.
no jokes. Yeah, no jokes. And that took a lot of labor, a lot of expense, a lot of people. They didn't just hire a couple of thousand Chinamen to come over from China for a couple of years. The people had to do the work themselves, right? So
I don't know. A couple thousand Chinamen for a couple of years could accomplish a lot.
Sure.
They built the railroads in California that way.
Yeah, all you need is a couple of hundred boats to get them over.
Right.
But in earlier times, people had to do the work themselves. They had to finance it. They had to quarry
Now I have no video.
they did. There was a big job. So therefore, I would imagine that the normal way was that they'd settle the area. And once they had that critical population that they could support the building of the walls, and they get the walls built up. But they wouldn't necessarily build the walls first, because who's gonna build the walls if no one's living there? You can't just have people. They didn't truck people in for miles and miles. You had to people have that be living there. So in general, I imagine that's the assumption you can make, that the walls were built afterwards. The settlement was, however, made on the condition that the walls would eventually be built. Okay.
Isn't that what we learned in Ezra and Nehemiah about how they built the walls of Jerusalem?
Could be. I'd have to review the psukim, right?
I think they had to settle for a while first.
Sure. They need to bring the people back, and once they had enough people, that was the whole trick. They had to have enough people to be able to do the job.
Right.
Sure. And it says, the psukim
Filled
say they
with a shovel in one hand and a gun in the other hand. Or
That's right. And they were up early in the morning.
A bow and arrow, I guess, or a sword.
Yeah, that's right. They were up there early in the morning and late at night, and they're working day and night as much as they possibly could. It wasn't easy. So, okay, so that'll bring us to Sif base, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, now we can start Sif base.
Okay, so, excuse me.
Go ahead.
V'chein hakfarim hanirim imahem afilu einam smuchim kigon shehem bahar o shesmuchim lahem afilu einam nirim imahem kigon shehem ba'emek, by a valley. Uvilvad shelo yihiyu rechokim yoter mimil. Uve Shushan afal pi she'ena mukefet choma miyamot Yehoshua korin betetvav o'il v'naasa vo hanes. Okay, and so the Kafarim were the villages.
Yeah, so now we have the first mention of a kfar like villages, right? Those are villages which are basically open small towns. Like we said, the krach is like a town or a city, if you want to call it a town or a city. And they're usually, in those cases, they'll be, as we said, sometimes they'll be walled, sometimes not, because they held a fairly large concentration of population, right? But the kfar is a simple village that may or not have a large population, but they're basically spread out. And that was a special small area of population. So they have a different halacha.
Okay, hanirim imahem, that are seen with them?
Meaning the villages which are seen or able to be, or you can in the villages see the krach. You can see the krach. Meaning we have in the case like a certain time, like say for example, remote looking towards Yerushalayim.
Right. Okay.
So they could have been a village there in remote at the time of the Beis Hamikdash, for example, and they would be able to see, perhaps, maybe, I'm not sure, they might have been able to see the walled city of Yerushalayim from remote.
So afilu einam smuchim kigon shehem bahar. So even if they aren't close by, for example, there's a mountain there, I guess.
Right.
Oh, okay. O shesmuchim lahem, or it's close to them. Afilu einam nirim imahem, even if they can't see it. Kigon shehem ba'emek, because I guess there's a valley in between them. Right.
So that means they're close, right? They're close, but they can't really see it because there's interruption of the mountains because they're in the valley area.
Oh, okay. So they wouldn't be able to see what the village or town on a mountain then. Okay. Uvilvad, let's see. Shelo yihiyu rechokim yoter mimil. And what, only those that are not a distance of more than a meal?
Right, meaning even though they can't see it because let's say they're in the valley, right?
Mhm.
But the fact that they can't see it wouldn't stop them from being considered to be reading along with the krach on test vav. But if that's only if they're within a certain distance of a mill. If they're further distance than a mill, it doesn't matter if they can't see it or they can see it. Once they're further than a mill, that means they're not samach anymore, right?
Okay. Forget what a meal, how long, the meal was like.
At a kilometer.
A kilometer, you think?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's what, 6/7 of a mile, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better, bigger than that, maybe like 7 or 8.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, Uvashushan, afal pi she'ena mukefet choma miyamot Yeshua korin bit tedvav o'il v'naasa vo hanes. Okay, and in the Shushan, even though it was not walled, have a built wall around it. In the times of Yoshua, they read on Tetvav, on the 15th of Adar, since that's the miracle happened in it.
Right. So at the time of Yeshua ben Nun, Shushan apparently, I'm not sure where the Mechaber gets this, probably the Gemara. The Gemara says historically they understood, they knew that Shushan was not walled at the time of Yeshua ben Nun, so therefore it should be disqualified from reading at Tezvav. But since the miracle happened at that time in that place of Shushan, therefore they read on Tezvav.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's somewhat interesting because the miracle also happened on your Dalit also, right?
Right.
So that's just this question. That's the question you'd ask in the Gemara, that the miracle also happened on your Dalit.
I think it has to do with the fact that reading on Tesvav is considered to be more covered.
Mhm.
So they want to give the covet to Shushan because the miracle happened there.
Mhm. Okay.
I don't understand why it's more covet though.
Mhm. That we need to have to look into the Gemara and see what the Rishonim and the Forshim say about the Pshat in the Gemara. If I have a chance, I can take a look. I have time before we get to Purim.
Okay, so now I guess we can go to the Mishnah Berura.
Very good.
And I have it at bet, which in parentheses is a hay. So it says Hakfarim. We said we're the villages, okay. Behu Hadin Ayarot. Oh, and what, they have the same din as cities?
Yes.
And that's the Nativ Chaim, I guess. I don't know what. And the Meiri, Kaf, the Meiri. Okay, that's interesting.
Within Yaros, right? So that would be Ayaros, I guess, would be cities, Kafarim and cities, right? Okay.
In the middle,
What?
you're in the middle.
Well, Ayarot are cities.
That's double
Yeah.
A batteries in addition to the triple A batteries.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay, so Vav is Vilvad Shelo Yihiyu Rechokim. So even if they are not further than a meal, okay. Zeh Ka'e Adis Mik Alay the Hainu Shahaya Samu. So what's this? What's Ka'e is Aramaic, right? I guess.
Koi, right? Koi. It's going on the summit. When it says Bilvad Lo it says as long as they're not more distant than a mil, right?
Right.
So this is going on Zekoi Ada Samich Le, on which is close, what's considered to be close to it.
Aval nireh, afilu rachok yoter mimil have krach. But even if it appears that even if it's further than a meal, what from a krach, a city, a krach.
Havi kikrach, meaning abonira, let's say it's visible, meaning you do it, you're able to see it, meaning we're talking in the previous point, we're talking where you couldn't see it, meaning if you're close, but since you're in a valley, you can't see it, but still you're within a distance of a mil, that's okay. Abonira, when you can see it, right? Afilu rokak yosum a mil, if you can see it, even if it's going to be further than a mil, havi kikrak, it still has the same status as being like the krak.
Oh, okay. Okay. V'yesh omrim v'nireh gam keneno nechshav l'krach ela im kain she'eno rachok yoter mimil. Okay, so and some say that it appears also that they are in the opinion they are not a krach, a village,
Right, you're Yosh
or a
Omri,
small town.
that the bit nearer, even when it's nearer, even when you can sight it, right? It's
Mhm.
not, right, considered kikrach if it's going to be further than a mil. I mean, so you have a machlokus, right? If you're living in a place which is outside the krach, but you can see the krach, so there's a machlokus whether or not you can read on tezvav like the krach. According to the first opinion, it's like the krach,
Mhm.
because it's still citable. But the second opinion says that even though it's citable, since you're further than a mil, it's not considered to be samach, and therefore it's not to be read on tesvav, rather on your dalit.
Oh, okay. So, okay, so that's Ella im kain she'eno rachok yoter mimil, even if
Right.
it's not further than a meal. Okay. Okay, 7. So ho'il b'na'aseh vones.
This is going
And
back to Shushan. This is going back to Shushan, even though there wasn't walled
right,
at the time of the miracle. Since that's where the miracle occurred, you read on Tezvav.
okay. Shehem nahu b'tetvav kediktiv bikra. Oh, that nahu, that it nahu is
Nahu.
rested usually, right?
Yeah, that means that exactly. I mean, they rested from their battle. The battle came to an
They
end.
rested on Tetvav,
Right,
as is written in the Megillah, I guess.
right. Bikra. That's what it says exactly in the psukim. Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So good. It's almost time for us to stop. So yeah, it's 29. So rather than go over, we'll leave. We'll start Gimel. Gimel is for tomorrow. Yom Rishon. Very good.
Okay, so we'll start at Gimel. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
We'll start Gimel tomorrow.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
You
Have
both
a
have a
good
good
day.
day. Hope to see you tomorrow, 9:30. Bez Hashem. We'll talk about the Parsha Shavua.
Amen.
Okay,
Okay.
everyone be well.